My lock of the week isn't who you think it is this weekend, and I'm going to tell you why. Welcome to Lucrative, Hammer of the Week, Episode 4. So welcome back to Lucrative Hammer of the Week, guys, which is where I tell you my most confident spot on the entire card or the bet with the most value on the entire card, as I see it. So the UFC is going to Rio de Janeiro this weekend, and we have a very good matchup with Charles Oliveira taking on Mateus Gamrot. And I have scoured the card for the best betting spot on the entire weekend, as I do every single weekend. And I think I have found some gems. It's not been easy to pick out the one that I like, but I have picked out one for this video. Before I tell you what that one is, I will ask you to please like and subscribe on this video. It's extremely beneficial for me, for the algorithm, and it takes less than a second to do it, and it's completely free. So I'll give you the Hammer of the Week for free. You subscribe for free. I would appreciate it. So boys, if you don't know what Hammer of the Week is, it's where I go through the entire card and then I come and I make this video where I'm giving you the best betting spot on the entire weekend. Like, it could be the most confident spot. It could be the most likely to happen. It could be the spot that might not be the most likely to happen, but that has the most value. Now, I will say that I make 15 plus bets every single week, right? So sometimes it's hard to pick the best one. Sometimes there is not a best one. Sometimes there's 10 and I like them all equally, right? So definitely don't rely on this one bet. If you want all of my bets, the link is in the bio. But this is one bet that I like. So without further ado, let's see who this week's Lucrative Hammer of the Week is. So there it is, lads. Jonata Deniz versus Mario Pinto to go over 1.5 rounds at odds of -185 is this week's Lucrative Hammer of the Week. Now I'm going to tell you exactly why I have made this week's Hammer of the Week, and then after I tell you why I've made it the Hammer of the Week, we're going to go and look at some props that we can add to ladder the hammer. So we're going to play the Hammer of the Week as our main bet, but then we're going to play some other props on the bet as well. So make sure you stick around for that one. But the reason I've chose this week's Hammer of the Week to be Jonata Deniz and Mario Pinto to go over 1.5 rounds is simply because I think both guys are pretty high-level strikers for the heavyweight division. And if both guys are high-level strikers, oftentimes it could be some type of chess match. I also look at both of their fight styles and I see that they are very patient. They do play chess in there. They don't do what Alex Pereira done against Magomed Ankalaev, and that was actually half out of character for Alex, but they don't do that, which is where, you know, they rush straight to the other side of the octagon to their opponent and try and knock them out in the first round. That's not what Jonata Deniz or Mario Pinto is known for. Like, honestly, guys, these two fighters are the definition of patient strikers. We have Mario Pinto, who is mainly a boxer, right? He likes to do most of his work with the hands. But like I said, he is not rushing forward and throwing 10-punch combinations like Jack Della Maddalena. He is very patient in there. He's a heavyweight after all. You can't fight like JDM and be a heavyweight because you're going to get knocked out. You're going to get a lot of knockouts as well, but you're going to get knocked out, right? So Mario Pinto knows this. He doesn't want to put himself in the firing line. Now, look, there are some fights where, you know, people like Austin Lane who have put a lot of hands on him early, but he still stayed patient in there. He still stayed calm in there. He took a lot of shots. His durability looked good, and he ended up getting a knockout in the second round. And I just feel like this fight is going to be a battle of patience and a battle of technique rather than a battle of durability and pace and power and pressure, you know? So in those type of fights, I like to look to the over 1.5 rounds. In those type of fights, I like to look at the fight go into the decision. You know, I did the same thing in Soriano versus Veretennikov last week. On my YouTube channel, on my YouTube short, I gave you the Vegas glitch. And that was Punahele Soriano versus Veretennikov over 1.5 rounds at -170. Very similar to odds to what we have today. And it cashed with ease. And I'm looking to do the exact same thing again on an over 1.5 rounds where I feel like it's going to be a slow-paced fight for the most part. And even if it is high-paced, I think Jonata Deniz and Mario Pinto both have very good durability in the stand-up. I believe that where they fail is the ground game. You know, Jonata Deniz has been finished by Marcin Tybura, but that was purely on the ground. On the feet, he was piecing up Marcin Tybura. You know, Mario Pinto has been finished on the ground once in the amateur scene, and all of his knockouts have come from standing. So both of these guys are poor on the ground, but not really good on the ground, never shoot takedowns. So I just expect it to be a stand-up fight where they're both very high level, for the heavyweight division. And like I said, it's going to be a technicality type fight. Who's got the better technique rather than who's going to go in there and just swing the most heavy levers. So I like the over 1.5 rounds in this spot. So this is only minus 185, right? And at the end of the day, we're degenerates. We want something a little bit higher odds. Like minus 185 is going to be our main play. But now let's look at some great props that we can add on to our hammer of the week. Before we do that, I want to go back and look who crushed last week's hammer of the week. So I gave out my hammer of the week, but as always, I tell you guys to comment below your hammer of the week and I'll shout the best ones out on my show. So unfortunately, my hammer of the week flopped completely. We had Patchy Mix in a fight that most people thought he won, but me, with not only a bet on him, but also a video on him, calling him hammer of the week, I didn't think he won. I mean, I thought it was like a 50-50 fight, so I have to be honest with that one. I'm not going to cry robbery. In my opinion, very close fight. Could have gone either way. I have no problem with Jakob getting a decision. That was a very bad bet for me. Very bad guy to make hammer of the week. I should have made my max bet, which was Farid Basharat and Yusuf Salah. I should have made one of those guys hammer of the week, but the odds were a bit higher, and I wanted to give you guys some better odds.
We got Salah submission and Salah moneyline for the max bet parlay. This would be crazy. What? What the fuck? Let's go! He tapped! He tapped! We fucking did it! Let's cash! Let's fucking cash, and we got the submission!
Boys, look at this, 1700, 1700, 1700. These are all different slips. Same stake, 1700, 1700. Boys, look how much we got more. Look at this, 1700. These are more slips. Let's fucking go!
Is what it is, boys. Can't win them all, but we are back this week to do it again, as we will be every week. One thing I will say is we still profited on the week, and that makes it 8 weeks in a row which we have not lost a week. And I saw a couple of comments like, you lost on Patchy, so that means you lost this week. No, Patchy was one bet, right? We had about 10 bets on that card, as I always say. We actually profited on the week as a whole because we profited on PFL. You can check every single bet I've made, win or lose, on a third-party tracking website, betmma.tips. So I cannot change my record. I cannot edit my bets. Patchy is on there for life. My Patchy Mix bet is on there forever. We have now gone 8 weeks in a row without losing. And like I always say, if you really want to make money, don't watch Hammer of the Week and put all your money on it. Of course, I try to give you content. I try to give you bets that will win through videos. But if you want to know my actual official bets and how much I'm putting on them, the link is in the bio. It's very important you know how much to put on each bet. Because you might watch this video, put $100 on Hammer of the Week and $2 on every other bet. And so if Hammer of the Week loses, you're going to lose no matter if all your other bets win. But we didn't do that. I didn't put all my money on Patchy and no money on the other bets. Actually, Patchy wasn't even my biggest bet. My biggest bet was Yusuf Salah and Farid Basharat, as I've said. So make sure you're staking correctly on each bet and not going so heavy on one bet and not a lot on the other bet, or you're betting everything for the same price. No, you need to know exactly how much you're putting on each bet. So we'll go now and look back at last week's comments to see who won on their Hammer of the Week. So boys, we got 161 comments on that video. So lots of people writing about their Hammer of the Week. Loads of losses, but there were definitely some good ones in there as well. We got David Demetriades, Hammer of the Week, Marab via decision. So well done on that one, Marab via decision. Def Taxes and Marab via decision. Insidious said, last week I said Bulk and Bear round 1 and cash big. This week Hammer is Edmund KO round 1. Let's go. I was on both of them. Me and the VIP was on both of them. So well done. That was a great Hammer of the Week. 2 weeks in a row. That's a great one, my man. We got Chappers with a great one. Hammer of the Week is Poatan by finish under 2.5 rounds. So that was a very good one, man. Well done on that one. We got a couple other honorable mentions here. There's 161 comments, so I can't read out all the winning ones. But yeah, congratulations if you got that pick right, guys. Like I said, comment down below for your hammer this week. And next week, I'll give you a shout out on the show if you win. So boys, we have our hammer for this week, right? It's the over 1.5 rounds in Pinto versus Denise fight. But now we're going to move to one of my favorite sections of the show where we look for some props to add on to our hammer of the week. So we don't just have one bet, we might have 2, 3, or even 4, right? So this section is called Ladder the Hammer, and we're going to start it right about now. So since we played the over 1.5 rounds, we can't really play any fighter to win via knockout in round 2 because you know, that kind of goes against our over 1.5 rounds, right? So either we're going to play a fighter to win in round 3, or we're going to play the fight to go to a decision, or a fighter to win via decision. And I actually like the goes the distance prop here. So it's plus 195, right? Which is big odds. And I know it's a heavyweight fight, and I know both of these guys have got some finishes in the UFC, but I genuinely feel this is going to be a chess match that could go to decision. So the second rung of our ladder, which is the first prop outside of the main hammer that we're going to play, is going to be Jonata Denise versus Mario Pinto to go to decision at odds of plus 195. And now we're in a position where we go, all right, if we're betting the fight to go to decision, the only other bets we can conceivably play are either fighter to win via decision. But that's not actually true. There is one other bet we could play, and it's a bit of a crazy one, but bear with me here. I have just seen the fight to go to a split decision is plus 700 odds. Now, man, if my breakdown is correct, then it's going to be a fairly close fight where both fighters are doing a lot. And I feel like Jonata Denise is going to have the kicking advantage and maybe the power advantage, whereas Mario Pinto will have the volume advantage and the boxing advantage. I feel like it's going to just come down to what the judges prefer. You know, are they going to like the boxing of Mario, or are they going to like the more power shots of Jonata Denise and maybe a couple of kicks? And I feel like, who knows, you know, like we don't know. So I like that one. The third rung of our ladder in this section, ladder to hammer, is going to be Mario Pinto versus Jonata Denise goes to split decision at odds of plus 700. So like I said, these are just some fun additions, right? They're not the hammer themselves. We know what the hammer is. But also, the hammer is not my only play of the week. Don't go crazy on it. If you want all of my bets and how much to stake on each bet individual to you, I'm going to tell you that if you click the link in my bio, sublaunch.com/lucrativemma, you're going to get access to everything. And you can join us on our 8-week win streak as we look to move into 9 weeks undefeated without a losing week. So that is it for this week's Lucrative Hammer of the Week. And I'll see you in the next one.